Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Media Productions bringing you another anime TV season review.
So right off the bat, we're talking about Witch Hat Atelier. And when we first heard about it, it sounded interesting. And I was really hyped to see where it was going to go, considering that when we was looking at it before, and it was actually showcasing to us how the manga actually was stylized. And oh my god, it's literally hands down probably one of the best illustrated mangas I've seen out there. The depictions in it are outstanding. And when it got picked up for anime, of course, our interest was even more piqued.
So Witch Hat Atelier is based off a manga and written and illustrated by Kamome Shirahama. Like, this is the most well-known of her works, but she's actually been very prolific across for about more than a decade now, especially in Western fronts, where apparently she's been doing a lot of illustrations for even big Western comics, so DC and Marvel, Star Wars as well, and this is their most popularized original work. And this is coming off the heels of a new resurgence in traditional fantasy storytelling in anime.
And of course, we're not talking about isekais. That's a totally different situation, which they have their place. But for the mass majority of us who have been dying and hungry for getting into the fantasy scape the way that it was traditionally done, this is definitely one of those special entries that we had to look into.
Now, mind you, fantasy has always been very popular, especially in anime. Heck, like technically most of anime is fantasy, even shonen. Is that's more thick martial arts focused.
Yeah,
that's still fantasy.
Exactly.
Where the traditional fantasy is more like the sword and sorcery type genres.
They think Lord of the Rings, your Harry Potter, stuff like that.
And as far as anime is concerned, we're talking like a throwback to like Berserk. And modern, in our at the time of this video, the more popular manga is in that traditional fantasy space. We're talking Freyren, Beyond Journey's End,
and of course Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi.
And this is the manga Witch Hat Atelier is technically completes this new trifecta.
It's always interesting to see how these animes and mangas always find themselves in threes.
And for this, even though this is like within that realm of like the sword and sorcery, each one is very unique in how they approach their premise, with Freywind being like the epilogue of what a traditional sword and sorcery like story would have told. Delicious in Dungeon is that Dungeons and Dragons type scenario, but
it focuses mostly on cooking these creatures than rather not. And yeah, it does actually have its own interesting storyline that's going down within it as well. But for the most part, it's just that that's like it's cooking.
Yeah, with a very dark twist.
Oh yeah, almost all of these. Let's be honest, all of these three fantasy series have very dark implications that goes within them.
And with Witch Hat Atelier's, the story does have its tropes of familiarity with a young outsider who is like a passionate within the world of magic, who then becomes an apprentice within that field, very similar to like other more popularized anime stories.
But I feel as though what sets Witch Hat Atelier aside and different from a lot of those entries is primarily dealing with the concept of how they goes about with magic. Unlike those various other variations, Witch Hat Atelier says, no, everybody technically is capable of performing magic.
It very emphasizes the witchcraft aspect, emphasis on the craft scenario, in which it really boils down to
whether or not you're putting forth the effort and the due diligence behind it. Now, specifically with this variation of magic, it deals with the creation of circles and sigils that goes within it. And with the particular witch that creates these particular circles, they had to be very careful in which how they draw it. In fact, that is the whole basis, is you have a specific tool set that helps you create these things, and then you have your knowledge and how well you're actually drawing these particular circles and sigils.
And like most other things, like magic, It is based on the very natural world, so you're very limiting your capabilities on what is what exists.
It's simple stuff, but deceptively so. As anything that's given to you in specific, simple manner leaves a whole lot of room for horrific things to go down if you're not being careful. And that, of course, starts us out with our journey within Witch Hat Atelier and its main protagonist of Coco.
Now, Witch Hat Atelier, like we said, is based in the world of mostly dominated, both in two different camps. You have witches and the common folk within their domain. And witchcraft and magic is essentially segregated.
Yes, in this particular case, individuals who declare themselves as witches safeguard the knowledge of how magic is performed in the world, mostly for a good cause, because in the past, when everybody had access to it, of course you had your individuals that used it for very nefarious, if not cruel and sadistic means. So all of them. So in this world, witches safeguard that knowledge, so that way only individuals who are truly understanding of the gravity of the situation are in usage of it.
And we are following young Coco. Ever since she was young, she has always been very curious on how magic is done and wants to live within that world even more so than the few occasions that where she witnesses it. The story begins when a witch by the name of Kifri stumbles upon her lonely little village, and after an incident that occurs, he set out to perform his magic to help set out to continue his journey.
Coco ends up discovering from Kifri's helping hand the secret behind witches' craft, and in this case, the drawing aspects of it. Mm-hmm. And calling back towards a faithful time in her past in which she encountered a witch who gifted her a book and the tools in which to perform magic. She practices it, and she ends up discovering that she has to, that she's actually capable of utilizing it.
But she ends up performing a very powerful but yet forbidden spell that unfortunately within her house and also her mother, who sadly gets imprisoned in this very crystallized state, and thus when Kifri rescues Coco from this incident, he takes it upon himself to have Coco become his apprentice so they can figure out how to reverse the spell.
I immediately fell in love with the art, with everything that was going on in here, from the fact that in this world anybody is declared a witch. It's not necessarily gatekeep behind genders. Whenever you institute the concept of crafting into your magic system, and also puts in the concept behind, it's not because you have just some innate skill or some
you're born powers.
No. This is about you can do this stuff, but you have to be careful. You have to actually put forth the work, the due diligence, the studying. Mm-hmm. And that's so beautiful about this particular story and how they actually implement magic in their world.
And how they go about the practice of it, and within the witch side of society, you can learn within an actual witch school, which is apparently optional, not like how other anime stories
or fantasy stories like to deal with the concepts.
At least in modern day. Mm-hmm. Or you can go even more traditional route with apprenticeship. One single master, a teacher, will take upon one or a few young students under their wing to practice magic. The Witch Hat Atelier is actually named after a little hut or house which they live in to practice such skills.
In this world, the magic schools are broken up down between these multiple different institutions that are called ateliers.
Now, with this very segregated sense of society, we do see how the fragile status quo is very breaking. We have different factions that are at least introduced in this first season. Mm-hmm. Of course, the students and masters of which is we have the enforcements.
The knights.
Not really much shown. They were really strict. They so strict in America. They do not. They don't take their laws lightly at all.
No.
They talk it very seriously, and also rogue faction of which is
the Brim Caps.
Yes.
Now, that's an interesting group of individuals, seeing that they like to push the boundaries behind what is necessarily acceptable as far as anybody is capable of actually performing with magic, almost to incredibly cruel and definitely nefarious means.
Yeah, the consent is not in their vocabulary at all, and it clearly looks like on a major plot in Witch Hat Atelier is what is their obsession with young Coco. But with the world building that we are seeing being introduced in this first season, something that also is unique about the storytelling of Witch Hat Atelier is the emphasis on consequences and how and accountability, how society treats how other citizens are treating each other. We have various forms of discriminations.
Yep.
How based off of classism, disabilities, and how that is perceived, how that is handled even with society. We're being introduced into this front, not so far as not as addressed as thoroughly, but we are definitely seeing the weight of it in this in this first season. As far as characters go, Coco, as much as the young, naive, but yet very passionate character that she is.
Absolutely love her enthusiasm when it comes with the concept of magic. I love when characters actually want to be a part of something more so than they are actually thrusted into it or just reactionary for it. No, Coco definitely is an individual who takes charge on what they want. However, there is that horrible naivete that gets her into so much trouble. Excluding just from the fact of she's responsible for her mother being in the predicament she's in. She's responsible for a lot of the other situations that she not only found herself in, but her various other classmates.
Yeah, she is a person who really does bring trouble. So far, almost everywhere she goes, and part of the beauty of the storytelling is, despite her charismatic and charming outlook, learning how she takes accountability is something is very humbling for her, and it's admirable that the story is mature enough and mature enough for its audiences to understand just the weight of what's happening here. A character that definitely tries to weigh this is the character of Agathe.
She's a character that at first when you really introduce her, it's like you love to hate her, but at the same time you have a true, because what I find really admirable about this series is that even with characters that it's like a guy who is very brash and and very stern in certain aspects, you have an understanding where she's coming from. And she's an individual who also is able to walk the walk, not just talk it.
Yeah, she's born of a very talented family apparently, and she wears that line of badge with honor, but also with such concern because she wants to live up to such a high status, and so she really know that she's pushing herself and wants to achieve a higher status. But
even if she feels, or not just feel, is painfully understood that she may not necessarily be ready for everything she's trying to thrust herself into.
Yeah, because one of the things that this show illustrates is how magic is used, and witches are using magic in the service of people. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's one thing to know a lot of skills and and want to perform magic, but you also have to remember why the society is what it is. You have to learn how to and be in service of your common or even lesser common or very average day folk. Be a people person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then of course we have their teacher of Kefri. Automatically this individual oozes just so much cool swagger in himself, but at the same time, what I love about Kifri is that he offers something that not a lot of stories, Western or
Most.
I'm just saying most stories don't offer. It was formed in their male characters, is that he's not afraid to be a comforting, nurturing figure. That form of masculinity that is quite often neglected in depictions of characters.
Yeah, there's a sense of warmth that he bestows upon his demeanor, especially when he's, mostly when he's in the company of the people that he's in service to, and also his students. But we are also seeing introduced to a more grayer side of Kifri.
Yes.
There is clearly very ulterior motives that he has with Coco.
And specifically his ties towards his reasons for wanting to go after the brim caps. So much so that he's willing to do some really dark things in order to ensure that certain things happen the way he wants it to go down.
And with how Kifri behaves within this very obsessive pursuit, it goes back to that very fragile status quo of how magic is segregated, and we have a sense that Kifri is not really much in line with how authorities, the higher ups in the magic society, are handling how magic is being distributed or being I'll say governed. I'll say.
And that also segues into yet another one of Kifri's students that actually also has her own particular thoughts on how she wants to work around the systems or the aspirations of their society.
Yeah, the young character named Riche. Her character starts to blossom near the back half in the later episodes when she has to take trials and take up tests, because even though that you're not going to, most witches they practice within the school that is introduced. Many of them are in their own individual ateliers, and but one common thing that they do have to make sure in order for you to get your witch's license is that you do have to pass certain tests to do so.
And this is definitely not within Riche's scope of what she actually sees for herself. This is a character who very much believes that they want to be free. They want to be able to do what they want to do and do it in the way they wish to do it.
And this she does it very does not like rules at all. Sense of structure. She wants to perform magic based on her own creativity.
But as you can see, with all these characters, that your wants is all well and down, but there's also consequences in which you find yourself into situations that you must rely on others' help or on the knowledge that you pull and gain around everywhere else.
And the character of Tatia, a little ray of sunshine. She kind of radiates a sense of enjoyment. She's one of the few one of the students who actually is very welcoming to Coco because of her very bright personality. Riche was very it is what it is.
Exactly.
And also got being very adverse to Coco, being an outsider within the world. But Tatia, who wants to be very much in the service of the people, and her magic you see that how she wants to pursue her magic endeavors.
But we could also see just little slight glimmers, especially when the situations where she found herself into mortal danger. There is definitely something behind that warm smile and that facade. I'm really interested to see how far that goes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a character that's going to be interesting if they break in terms of her sanity and stuff. The whole production of Witch Hat Atelier, even though it's digitally done like most modern anime is, has a very tactile texture to it.
Everything feels as though that it was almost painted, or if not, again, drawn right on the screen. And the tones, the vibrant colors, the sketching and marks that you see within the world itself, and the backgrounds. Oh my God, they're lush. And of course, their character designs and the outfits. This is something I immediately, when I was looking at this stuff, I was like, I need to own it.
Yeah, the world building is very unique. It's not necessarily like it's European medieval fantasy, but yet with a very that you also see very touches of other cultures just like blended in with how the architecture and the costume design. And like it also draws to mind the influences of how Avatar: The Last Airbender, how they had these chimera-like animal creatures that are populated throughout the world, and the anime, which the director they said they spent about 3.5 years on this since it was announced. Until release, it really definitely shows.
The sequences in which they perform magic and how they interact with the world is some of the best animation I've seen in an anime for quite some time, and it just keeps improving on itself each episode.
Yeah, I can like even though this anime season 1 ended off such a cliffhanger. That definitely transitioned into a manga panel itself.
Yeah.
Like, it's very the subtle visual ways that they go read the manga. I would rather this anime take its time to
do
have
not rush
consistency.
this. Thank you. This is something where I want them to go ahead and keep giving us banger after banger after banger, but with the quality that you gave us in the first place.
It's from a studio called Bug Films. It's more of a recent anime studio, but clearly
they ain't playing.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of anime studios nowadays being developed in service of a very specific anime in mind to adapt, and they clearly wanted to put their best foot forward, especially with have like the music composer of Elden Ring doing the music, and sense of depth that composer is able to do from the haunting and epic fantasy scores that it does echo their work from software, but also having that gentle coming of age sound that
it feels like a warm hug.
And speaking of audio, this anime is was airing day and date with many different dubs, especially with the Japanese. But
the attention they went towards gaining voice actors that actually reflects different regions within the world itself is definitely and greatly appreciated.
It really helps with the world building and adds a lot more layers into it.
So right off the bat, our feelings is for this first season, this first going for Witch Hat Atelier.
I would say it's a solid, great anime right off the bat. This first season is very much an introduction. Even though it does have very familiar tropes that you can already spot how they're fleshing out what makes it unique and original and what's interesting about it.
And of course, it's starting off on a really awesome footing with trying to open up the world itself and trying to really go into depth about what intricately is the heart behind the series.
So there we have it. That was our review for Season 1 of Witch Hat Atelier, the TV anime.
Are you a fan of the manga? If you so, please do not spoil it. I want to go along on this journey the way that we are going about it. But we definitely want to discuss down at the bottom what are your feelings about this series? What are you hoping to get out of it? Where you think it's going to go if you haven't read already before us?
Yeah, how do you rank this among this modern trio of fantasy anime? And also, if you want us to discuss Delicious in Dungeon, as like we did with Freywind before, Season 2 of Delicious Dungeon and Freywind will come out October of 2027 at the time of the video.
Fighting each other on these things.
So I see us doing a review on that first season probably later this year or early next year.
Yep.
But until then, let's discuss what's your feelings on the state of anime and what more do you want to see on this channel that we should discuss. My name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This has been a Seeking Me Productions. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and also check us on other social media outlets of Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd for other content we don't necessarily post on this channel.
See ya.
See you.